How's it going, everybody? Chuck Holton here. Want to make sure you can hear me. So leave a comment if you can. But let's talk about what's going on in the Middle East. It looks like the United States and Iran are at war. Now, that might sound really bad, and it is really bad, but we're probably not at war the way you think we are. What I mean is, Iran is fighting a war against the United States, and the United States is trying to pretend that they're not. I don't know if you can call it a full-on war if one of the parties is trying to ignore the other one, but I would call it a war because if there is a state actor that's out there trying to destroy you and they are kinetically fighting your forces in the region, then that's a war. And if you want to try to pretend that it's not, well, that just means that you're an idiot and you're probably going to lose. I mean, you are losing to the extent that you are not fighting back and you're letting the enemy just attack you. So what happened in the Middle East, in Jordan? So you probably didn't know before today that we have something like 350 troops staying at a base in Jordan, just right up in the north at the border with Syria and Iraq, and not far from the border with Israel. That base is called Tower 22, and I didn't know we had troops there. I knew we had troops in Jordan, but I didn't know about that base. It is about 12 miles south of a base in southern Syria called Al-Tanf, and I've been to that base. I've been to Al-Tanf before, and that's where we've got a bunch of Army Rangers that are trying to keep a lid on the remains of ISIS, because there are thousands of ISIS fighters who are still rolling around that part of Syria. And what we're trying to do is, we've got troops there that stick at them from time to time with special operations raids in order to try to keep them from being able to sort of organize and start taking over territory like they did back in 2014 when they took over land that was easily the size of Great Britain across Syria and Iraq. So we've got troops in Iraq, in Erbil, northern Iraq. We've got troops at a base called H3 in Iraq, which is Ali al-Salam Air Base. We've got troops in Jordan, apparently, in the northern part, here at this Tower 22, and we've got troops at several bases inside Syria. All of those are there for the ISIS mission and have been there for years. Now, as you know, probably, there have been more than 160 attacks against U.S. troops since October 7th, when the war started in Israel. That's almost 2 attacks every day since the war started. I mean, not quite, but it's getting close to 2 attacks a day. So this is a major escalation in the attacks. Now, all of these attacks have been fomented by organizations that are supported by Iran. And we're talking about the Iranian-backed militias in northern Iraq and Syria, called the Hashishabi, called Kataib Hezbollah, and there are other militias as well. But basically, this axis of resistance is Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iran. And then these other militias that Iran supports inside Iraq and Syria. Now, those militias are not 100% owned by Iran, and that's exactly how Iran wants it to be. Iran, this is exactly how they want this war to look. Because when the United States gets attacked by an Iranian-backed militia in Iraq or Syria, then if the United States attacks Iran directly, then the United States is the one who is escalating the conflict. But if they attack the Iranian-backed militias, they really don't do anything. It really doesn't do anything at all, because these militias are essentially expendable to Iran. And so think about this. The attack on Tower 22 killed 3 American soldiers and wounded more than 40 already. And that number keeps going up as more guys come down with symptoms of traumatic brain injury and things like that. This was almost a foregone conclusion. Like, we kind of knew that if there's more than one attack a day happening against U.S. troops in the region, eventually one of these rockets, missiles, drones, or mortar rounds is going to get through, and it's going to kill somebody. And you know what? Here we are. So that brings the total number of U.S. combat casualties in the Middle East this year to 5. The 2 Navy SEALs who were killed off the shore of Somalia on they were doing a boarding of a vessel out there, trying to board a pirate ship. And now these 3 troops that were killed in Jordan. Do you know that last year, 2023, was the first year in more than 2 decades when the United States did not lose any soldiers to combat casualties? According to the website I looked at, it was the only year in the last 20 plus years where we haven't lost any troops to combat. But that's changed now after this war has started. We sort of knew it would eventually happen, because we have to be right in taking down these rockets, missiles, mortars, etc. every single time, and the enemy only has to be right once. They only have to get one rocket through and somebody gets killed. So it happened. Hit apparently a residential building where these guys were sleeping or staying, and caused mass carnage. They had to airlift some of the guys out to hospitals in probably in Iraq or in even in Israel, perhaps. But and I don't know. They depending on how badly they hurt they were, they could have taken them directly out to Ramstein Air Base or someplace like that in Germany. So without a doubt, this is an escalation, but it's an escalation that the United States probably will not have the ability to, is not going to have the ability to really respond to in a way that will make much of a difference. Because here's what they can do. Here's their options. The United States can attack the sites where these rockets were fired from. Now, once those rockets are fired, those sites are abandoned. And so, do I have static on my microphone, you say? Here, let's see. Let's see if I can make this sound a little better. I'm going to take this microphone off, and we'll just try to use the microphone on the phone itself. That might be better. iPhone microphones are pretty good, but I usually try to do one better than that with a professional. But professional microphones don't always actually help. Don't always do better than the iPhone one does. So they could attack the site where the missile was launched from, and if they do that, they're not going to damage or destroy anything of substance. So if they want to take it up another level, they could attack the leadership of the militias that are responsible for the attacks. But these are ragtag groups that are funded by Iran, and they're not great about, I mean, they can replace these guys easily if we take out the leadership. But that's probably about as far as the United States would go. The other option that we would have would be to strike actually at the source, which is Iran. And as far as I know, the United States has not made a kinetic strike against Iran probably since I was in high school, if that. It's been decades, a long time, since we've had a kinetic strike. I say kinetic because we have attacked Iran in the cyber realm. You remember the Stuxnet virus? This is back, 10 years ago or so, and that was an actual attack. We've attacked them with cyber attacks multiple times. Now there's one kind of in-between step where the United States could attack like an IRGC commander who happens to be outside of Iran. And Israel has done that several times already since October 7th and has killed a half a dozen or more IRGC commanders in Syria. Now, the problem with that is that would definitely be an escalation, striking at Iran or Iranian citizens, even if they're outside of Iran. However, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I think that if the United States wanted to take a strong stand against this and let Iran know that this is unacceptable, then they kind of have to do that. They kind of, if not striking directly inside Iran, which I would, if I was president, I wouldn't be, totally against doing that. But if not doing that, then at least they should be striking at IRGC members in Syria or Iraq, like President Trump did with Qasem Soleimani. Qasem Soleimani was killed right outside the airport in Baghdad, and that was a major strike on not just a member, but the commander of the IRGC. And that is a strong statement. It's a strong statement that still smarts the Iranians to this day. The Iranians are still angry about that, without a doubt. Now, you have to understand the way that these Persians think, and these, the extremist Muslims think. They only respect strength. They do not respect weakness. If you do anything to try to reason with them or be nice to them, then they see that as weakness, and that's losing. That's called losing. If you strike hard at them, they will be very angry, but you're not going to make them hate you more than they already hate you. But they will get the message. They will get the message. And so, just like the United States and the decisions that it's made in the Red Sea against the Houthis, where we have made very vivid attacks against the Houthis, even the very limited attacks we've made have taken out maybe 20-25% of their ability to strike at distance. That means their command and control nodes, their air defense, their rockets and missiles and stuff like that. But we've not struck them hard enough to deter them in any way, shape, or form. And as a matter of fact, the situation is getting worse in the Red Sea, and it's getting so much worse that the United States has stopped talking about it. Now, get this. What does it say to you? Answer this question. What does it say to you if the United States gets struck by the Houthis and the United States refuses to even acknowledge that they got struck? refuses to even acknowledge that they were attacked, refuses to even acknowledge whether or not they had any damage or any casualties. And I think you're going to see more and more of this coming up to the election. If things go badly for the United States, they don't want to talk about it. But the Houthis claim that they struck a U.S. Navy ship off the shore of Yemen over the last 48 hours. Have you heard anything about that? No, because the United States has said absolutely nothing about this attack. Now, if they came out and denied it, that would be one thing. And I would tend to believe them if they said, no, they didn't actually deny us. They didn't actually attack us. I would tend to believe that. But because the Houthis are claiming that they struck this naval ship and the United States is completely silent on it, that says something else entirely. That tells me the United States that something may have happened and the United States doesn't want to talk about it because it's not going to make the U.S. look good politically. You have to understand that every message that comes out of the U.S. Pentagon, every message that comes out of the White House, as well as every message that comes out of the Houthis and Iran and everybody else, is precisely calculated for its political value. And so if you hear nothing about a purported attack on U.S. troops or on a U.S. ship offshore, I'm not saying that they sunk the ship. I'm not saying that they even hit the ship. All I'm saying is it says something to us. We can read between the lines here. If the United States won't deny that it happened, but also won't give any details about what happened. Okay? So on top of what the Houthis continue to do in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, do you remember the United States, just over the past few weeks, pulled out of Somalia? We had troops in Somalia for 10 years. And those were mostly Navy SEALs. We had some support troops there. And they were doing the same thing to Al-Shabaab that we've been doing to ISIS, because Al-Shabaab and ISIS are buddies. Okay, they're affiliated, and Al-Shabaab is every bit as bad as ISIS, if not worse. Al-Shabaab is a Somali extremist Muslim group, terror group, and they've been in Somalia over the past few years, and the United States has been conducting targeted strikes now and then against leadership to do the same thing they're doing in Syria, just try to keep a lid on those guys and not let them grow to the point where they metastasize and they really start taking over territory. But since the United States pulled out and Joe Biden decided we needed to pull out of there about several weeks ago, that has happened very rapidly, and Al-Shabaab has started to take more territory. They've increased their power, and they are now starting to conduct piracy raids again in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So on top of the Houthis doing it, now we've got pirates coming out of Somalia again that we had pretty much stopped. We had pretty much put a lid on that, and now just in a matter of weeks, we've got Al-Shabaab out at sea again, threatening ships in the Gulf of Aden. So this is, without a doubt, escalating in the region. So even as we've had very, very few, very, very few attacks or strikes coming out of Gaza over the last couple of weeks. We went like 20 days without any rockets coming out of Gaza. So that shows that the IDF is actually doing something right in Gaza. They're making progress in there. But and even as it looks like they have to go into Lebanon, because while there are still a diminishing number of rockets coming out of Lebanon into you guys, actually, things are going to get pretty bad. Bad. Yeah, sorry, I froze up there for a minute. Let's see if I get, okay, I got a couple of bars here. Maybe that's good enough. Let me just finish up here and then I will let you go because I'm getting out in the country and things are going to get pretty bad. Bottom line is the United States is at war with Iran. And by pretending that we're not, we are losing. So the United States is not only at war with Iran, but we're losing that war right now because we're trying to pretend that Iran's not actually at war with us, but they are. And so that's the bottom line. We've already lost troops. We've got, we've got 3 dead soldiers now. And what the United States, when you hear the spokespeople in the Pentagon saying, we will respond at a time and place of our choosing, that is absolute bunk. That is weak language. That is absolutely sending a message to our adversaries and our allies that we are weak and that we do not have the willingness or the wherewithal to, well, we have the wherewithal, just not the willingness to strike back at our foes in that region. So because of that, we are losing the war against Iran right now, and Iran is winning. And as the election draws closer, I think you're going to see the Biden administration very reticent to actually go hard, to actually strike against Iran in any meaningful way to try to put a lid on this. And that means that our troops in the region are at more risk, and we may in fact lose more of those troops between now and November, specifically because the Biden administration is only making decisions based on political expediency and not based on winning. And that is a real problem. So that's all I've got for you today. I'm headed for the border. I'm heading down to Eagle Pass. And so I'll be there in the morning. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Go over to chuckholton.com and you can subscribe there. I'm going to be putting up some more articles and things over there. And so you'll be able to get a fuller sense of the information that I'm picking up here on the border and also in Israel and all that by going to chuckholton.com and subscribing over there. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. God bless you, and stay tuned because I'm going to have a lot more about the immigration crisis coming up live from Eagle Pass, Texas in the morning. So stay tuned. We'll see you. Bye-bye.